Wake up, Toronto. Welcome back after Labor Day long weekend. And it's the last long weekend of summer, technically speaking, because fall doesn't hit until September 21st. But the autumn lovers have already started to pack up their t-shirts, shorts, and maxi dresses and brought out the sweater weather outfits. I love that. Truth be told, though, the nights and early mornings are actually quite chilly, so might as well keep an extra layer nearby. Am I right? Currently, there is plenty of fall items displayed in stores, so you could say the new season is in full swing. Maybe, and I'm not blaming anyone on this, but it's the validation we get from these stores and advertising to also encourage us to take down our flower setups and switching out our clothing and kind of moving towards the next season. And it's time to cue the fall lovers and Halloween fanatics to begin their countdown. Now the question is it too early though? Do people need some time to digest the fact that we're headed towards high winds, shorter nights, lots of rainfall, and snowy storm days? Maybe. But I'm a girl who also admires all things autumn. In fact, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I began my summer decor takedown end of August, and I'm now enjoying the fall vibes in my house. The atmosphere has gone from bright, airy, and refreshing to cozy. It's simply the best feeling. So I guess I fall into the same category as the big box stores in terms of being prepared earlier and sooner at that. And you know what? I don't feel ashamed at all because so far I've enjoyed my decor for 10 days now and it's so awesome. But again, some of you listeners might be thinking, well, why do people do things early and all of that stuff? Well, we don't procrastinate. That's one reason. But the logic behind it for me actually is so I can enjoy it longer. Plus, like, as much as I love the whole process of placing things and whatnot and making the space look beautiful, when it comes down to the dismantling aspect, I dread it so much. And so if I can keep it up a little bit longer, I will. For example, like my spring and summer display, they're together and they stay up from March until August, and then fall runs from end of August to end of November, and then Christmas follows with December to February. Yes, I said February because technically it's still winter, all right? But also, where there is fall, there's Halloween, and my husband and I enjoy the horror genre like the next person, and we kind of set the mood with red LED lights and candles and get all bundled up in our throw blankets and pillows, me hiding majority of the time the movie is playing and having my husband navigate me through by telling me what's going on. And some of you may think, well, what's the point if you can't face the gruesome stuff on screen? I couldn't agree with you more, but I also don't have the will to sleep after because of the nightmares that are about to follow. I mean, who would want to close their eyes and just see the girl from The Ring, especially if you're in the shower and you got soap in your eye and you're thinking she's standing right there beyond the glass doors and you're going to die. So, no thank you, I'll pass. Speaking of movies, and I think I can say this with confidence, but my husband trusts me to always pick the movies that we watch. If I was, I guess, a rating like Google or Rotten Tomatoes, I would definitely get like 98% of the time I'm accurate when it comes to choosing an excellent film. I don't know why. Maybe it's because along with my journalism degree, I have a minor in film and literature. I'm not trying to brag here, but it kind of spoiled movies for me forever because they're pretty predictable. Not to say that a few that have been released this year gave me unexpected Jeepers Creepers vibes, like the movie X which I highly recommend, and it's not suitable to watch with your parents, FYI. Little disclosure there. I'm also looking forward to films that have been made in the past, and they're bringing back, different parts to it, like Hocus Pocus, which is being released nearly 30 years later, a part 2, as well as the cult slasher film Halloween, which we've been so lucky to see what's going on in the world of Michael Myers. And this one in particular is called, I think, Halloween Ends, and they're saying it's the final film of the franchise. Fingers are crossed that it is, but who knows? It could go on like the Saw films, but unlike those ones, I really enjoy Jamie Lee Curtis. She's a legend, and I totally love watching her on screen. She's a badass. And of course, returning again is Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, Kyle Richards, who was in the original movie. She was a little girl at that time. I love her. And comment below which movies you're looking forward to watching or rewatching. So now that we established movies are a huge staple at my house, and maybe even yours, it's time to segue into story time. And I know how much you guys love what goes on in my personal life. Not that it's super juicy or interesting, but here it goes. So this past long weekend was actually, interesting fact, the first long weekend this summer where my husband and I got to stay indoors at home and binge watch movies, because most of our summer was dedicated to weddings, and because of the pandemic they were postponed, so every weekend we were headed out to an event, and boy oh boy was that wild, because we had to get dressed up and then go out in the heat with the makeup sweating off my face, and it was a sight no one should see or experience. I felt like a melting wax doll. It was insane. And there was a lot of overlap with these weddings with the pre-events, so we tried to attend at least one event that we were invited to, so it was equal and fair. And although we had fun reconnecting with everybody, it was seriously so nice and relaxing to be at home in sweats with your hair up, eating junk food, lying down in whatever position you wanted without, being all proper, and just being ourselves. I will never take that feeling for granted again. Like I said before, usually I pick out the movie and it's ahead of time, and even if it's a double feature, so I have to be prepared on that front. But this weekend I had a list of tasks that I've been putting off that I needed to complete, and as did Abby, prior to us sitting down and just having that our time and de-stressing and whatnot. So I didn't get a chance to do that, and I decided to leave it up to Avi, my husband, to pick something that he wanted to watch. He could either go through Netflix or Amazon or whatever, or we could head to Cineplex, whatever it was entirely up to him. So I was just on my phone while he was on his, and I was casually scrolling through Google when I was recommended Rings of Power, the TV show which was based off of The Lord of the Rings, and I was gonna eventually check it out, although nothing compares to the original, you know what I'm saying? So my husband was like, how he may have seen The Lord of the Rings, the first movie, long ago when it first came out, but he doesn't remember what happened. And neither did he complete the series. So I was stunned. I sat there looking at him in disbelief. I was shocked, It is the greatest trilogy of all time. Let me repeat that. It is the greatest trilogy of all time. And I'm a geeky fan, so I freaked. It's also weird because recently, in the last, 8 years or so, the Hobbit films were released. They came in a format of 3, and it was still 3 hours long each, etc., kind of like the Lord of the Rings trilogy. And I was under the impression that my husband had watched the original. And so he actually doesn't even remember the Hobbit movies at all. And we booked our tickets in advance to see these 3 films that were released, I think, every December. So I was super taken aback, and literally it was painful for me to hear him say that. Like, I can't begin to fathom, like, he didn't even recognize Frodo or Legolas, the reoccurring characters from the original that were also in The Hobbit. So you could see, I took it upon myself to enlighten him. We were going to see all 3 of the movies in one day. That was the plan. Whew, I don't know why I'm getting worked up, but I am. And so I was hoping my husband didn't fall asleep through the duration of the movies or lose interest and just say, let's shut it off and watch something else. So for me, a little backstory is, since I was like 11 years old, I read the books and bought all the movies and the behind the scene footage. And so I'm a pretty big fan, and I take Lord of the Rings so seriously. And in my heart, I feel Middle-earth exists somewhere, that it was here before, that Frodo and Sam and the gang walked the earth. That's just me, okay? Fantasy, fiction, no, it's real. That's what it is. Let's leave it at that. Don't crush a girl's dreams, okay? Curiosity probably is striking your ears at this moment because you're wondering, well, was it successful? Did he enjoy it? And let me tell you, yes. The moment we started, Avi's focus was like in the element. He was eager. And at first, when he was hearing me say these statements of being a Lord of the Rings fan and all of this stuff, and I haven't seen the original trilogy, mind you, in about 15 years or so, and it was still fresh in my mind, like as if it was yesterday. So it came down to annihilating his skepticism and proving to my husband by reciting the lines of dialogue before the character spoke it on screen. For example, when Gandalf tells Frodo, "A wizard is never late, nor is he early. He arrives precisely when he means to." I don't know where that accent came from, but seriously. And then Galadriel's voiceover where she says, "3 rings were given to the elves, wisest and fairest of all beings." And then when everyone is at the Council of Elrond and he says, "You will unite or you will fall." He's talking to the potential fellowship. And then the final scene of the first movie where Frodo turns to Sam and says, "I'm glad you're with me, Sam." So that's just the first film. And then I kept going on. And so my husband at some point told me to be quiet because he believed me. And so, long story short, he was hooked. He didn't even take washroom breaks or pause the movie. Like I told him, I could do that for him if he wanted to just walk around. And he was just so into it. He didn't care about anything else. And to be honest, he is willing to relive the Hobbit films that he watched years ago to catch up and kind of put the pieces together, which I'm excited about as well because I cannot wait to watch it with him. And it's free on Amazon Prime, so if you have a membership, you can also watch The Lord of the Rings. After we completed the trilogy, he had like the biggest smirk on his face, and I had to ask him, "So which character would you be?" And he said, "Aragorn." It was obvious to me. I knew he was going to choose that because his response was, "He's a badass and he's a king." And then at night when we were retreating to bed, we were just talking about the movie in general and our favorite parts and whatnot. And when he was thoroughly exhausted, he said, "Okay, I need to sleep now and dream of Lord of the Rings." And I'm like, what? So I guess I chose yet another fantastic movie no regrets there. And I've converted my husband into a Lord of the Rings lover. It's true. He says it's much better than the Harry Potter series. Ooh, sorry, J.K. Rowling fans, but Middle Earth wins this one.